Today on the Two Bros Lit podcast, we're going to be talking about he moves left, he moves right, goals! Let's get it.
Oh, dude. Okay, I was like, we're not talking about football. So these are the things you don't tell me that you're doing. You never told me you're gonna do that. That's good. That's really good. I like that.
But I have to do it that way. That way you actually laugh and you're not
I was
expecting it, you know?
because like, man, is football
So,
season? Yeah, football season's still going, right? It's December.
well, I guess. Yeah. So Eli still has matches that he has to do in the spring. I think here in the States, football, or as you call it in Europe, football, but soccer here in the States is only played in the fall in high schools, and then club soccer is played in the spring. I think that's how it works. I mean, he's only
Okay.
11,
Okay.
so we're just kind of getting into it, but I think that's how it works. So I'm super excited about today's episode because this is your forte. Like, this is the reason why I wanted to start this podcast, was so that I could learn from you. And honestly, even this morning, like, you're laughing, but it's very true. Even this morning, like, I've been thinking about this episode and talking about goals and how we can improve ourselves and be better people. And one of the goals that I've been thinking about a lot personally is my physical goals, and how, and then we're going to get into it a little bit more later, but how I've always struggled with my weight. And so this morning I went on a 2 mile walk slash jog, and it's just something that I want to do every morning because I understand that healthiness comes with consistency. It's not me doing CrossFit 1 day a week or doing it 2 days this week and then none next week. Like, it's got to be consistent, even if it's little things. And that's a big part of goals. So I'm super excited about this. I know you created the outline for this episode, and you named it Building a Life on Purpose, Physical, Financial, Work, and Relationships. How would you start out this episode? Like, what do you want to start with specifically?
Yeah, no, I think I was excited about this as well because when we usually talk when we're not recording, we don't dive deep sometimes just because it's just a smoke and hey, how you doing? How's life going? Complain a little bit about politics here and
Right.
there, talk about finances, and then, all
Yeah.
right, man,
Right.
cigars done, have a good week. But I think this is going to force us to, already you're being vulnerable on things that you struggle with, and I think that that is already setting the tone for how I think that this conversation can go between us, just being vulnerable on it, And I mean, I don't know if I have everything together on goals, but I am
It's
excited
definitely a
about this.
forte. Like, yeah, I mean, it's something that you're good at, right? But so before we start, one thing that we forgot, this is Two Bros Lit, right? We
Yeah.
have to show each other what cigar we're smoking. So today I have the Camacho. I thought it was the Triple Maduro. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it's the Triple Maduro. It's American Barrel Age Camacho Master Built Series. No, I don't think this is the Triple Maduro. So anyway, this is what I'm smoking. You smoked Camachos before, right?
Don't think I have. That's an American brand, right? Like it's like
It is. Can't think of the parent company, but it's an American brand. Say, what are you smoking?
well, same as last week, the good old J.C. Newman. This cost me about $2.
Quorum.
It's a good one.
Nice.
I'm going to the mall after this to take my wife shopping, and I'm gonna stop by the cigar shop, and whatever she buys in clothes, I buy that amount in cigars. So no, just kidding. I'll
That's a
grab
fair
a I'll
trade.
grab I'll grab a couple of nice ones today for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's I've been
Spread
looking
them
forward
out
to.
for each time we record.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I've been looking forward to just smoking. I kind of wanted to smoke throughout the week, but didn't have time. But I mean, we got some time now. To go back to your question, how you think this should start? I think like without getting like too philosophical and too like, like too deep. I think like you have to think about what is the aim of life in general because we set goals to do certain things. And I think if you can figure out what is your goal or your aim in life, I think that that would set the tone for all the goals, whether it's physical, financial, work related, or relationship. I think that that would set the tone for where the direction of your goals will go. And so I think that that would be the first question I would ask anybody if they're wanting to set goals in life. Like what do you want your life to look like?
Well, how would you answer that question?
Well, I mean, you can answer that a few different ways. I think if you want to spiritually talk about what is my goal in life, some people would say if they're religious, then they would say, well, it's to maybe master this certain religion or master this certain philosophy. I see the aim of life to become a better person, whatever it may be, self-development, being a lifelong learner. And that's how I see this life. I guess the aim of my life is how can I be a better father? How can I learn about how to save more money, how to invest more money? How can I learn how to be a better person in my relationships? How can I learn how to be better in my workouts and in my training? So I guess that's what I would say my aim in life would be.
So overall improvement then. Like, so
Yeah,
my goal in life, and in general, people's goal in life should be to not only become a better person in an individual sense, but to become a better person in my relationship with other people. So be a better husband to my wife, be a better father to my son, be a better coworker to the people that I interact with on a business level, to of course be kind to myself and my physical body because I want to last as long as possible and be able to accomplish things with this body that I've been given, and we've only been given one, right? So improve myself, obviously with aging in mind, understanding that I'm not going to be the physical specimen that I was when I was 20, but improving slowly by doing things that I can do at my age. That's what you're talking about, correct?
definitely. Yeah, most certainly. And I think once you kind of figure out what the aim of your life or how you want your life to be directed, then you kind of set goals on using the old adage, becoming the best version of yourself. Like what kind of goals can I set to become my best version? And your best version would look differently than mine, and my best version would look differently than someone else's. But then just being content with where we're at.
I think that's a good point. So I think that my goals are not necessarily somebody else's goals. And while physical achievement may be a goal for everybody at some level, the reality is there are going to be some people who want to be power lifters and to be the strongest weightlifter possible at 42, and which is the age that I am. And then there are other people who just want to be healthy enough to run around the front yard and play soccer with their kid at
Right,
42.
right.
And for a lot of people, like that's good enough for them. And that's almost where I am right now. Like there was definitely times in the past we've talked about I did CrossFit for a long time, and CrossFit used to have these things called regionals, and it was always my goal when I was in my early 30s to make it to regionals. And I was able to do so or come close to it on the muscle side, like the weightlifting side. Like my numbers got really high. But then I was never able to do it on the, I don't know, physical stamina side. So there were always people that were a lot faster than I was. I just couldn't get my breath in. But now that I'm 42, like 10 years later, like I don't care about any of that. Like I do care about being physically healthy enough to interact with my son and, not get tired going up a set of stairs whenever I go to interpret at a hospital. But I don't care as much being able to deadlift 405. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and yes, you got to figure out if you want to go for performance like CrossFit, aesthetics like bodybuilding, or just longevity. Like you said, I think we all want to be mobile and we want our body to feel good now and also at 60 years old. Like, we all see those older people that are really, really stiff. They can't put on their socks. They can't tie their
Right.
own shoe. And that's like, I don't even want to be in that situation when I'm 60, 70, 80 years old.
Correct. Yeah.
When you're going through your goals, let's think back on like past goals that you have set and maybe you've reached them or you haven't reached them.
So setting goals has been something that I've always done on a yearly basis, but I stopped. Like, unfortunately, I stopped the past few years, but always. And the reason why we wanted to do this episode is because it's going to be coming out towards the beginning of the year, and it's a good reminder for me to realize that in visualizing what I want to accomplish, seeing that in black and white on a piece of paper is immensely helpful to give me something to shoot for, because what I've realized in the past is if I don't have something to shoot for, then it's more difficult for me to try. So when I put those goals down on paper, whatever they might be, then I'm more apt to follow the steps in order to reach those goals. And sometimes I do reach them, sometimes I don't reach them. Sometimes they're, I mean, it shouldn't be, but sometimes they're arbitrary goals where I know that I'll never reach it. Like, I want to weigh 165 by the end of the year. Well, I weigh 210 pounds right now. Like, the reality of me setting an arbitrary goal like that where I know it's not reachable, obviously that's not the step that I need to take either. But this is something that I want to start doing. We're recording this in December, but I want to sit down and write specific goals. And I have specific goals that I want to go over with you to get your feedback on, because there are ways that I want to become a better person. But what is the best path to get there? Like, are there systems that I can put in place? Are there steps that I need to take? Is it just write down things that I want to do and then expect it to happen? Like, how do you pursue that?
Yeah, I think the first step is to writing them down, but I think we all have this internal clock or dialogue that we have with ourselves that we will always keep track of the goals that we have. But I think the first thing I think you have to do is you have to think deeply about what you want to accomplish. And I was thinking about this when you told me that you're going for a walk this morning. Um,
Yeah.
like when you go for that walk, like what do you think during that walk, or is it more conversation with Megan, or I don't know if you walked with her this morning with the dogs, but like what mental state does that put you in when you go for a walk?
So this morning I was thinking about our conversation. So the reason that I went for a walk this morning was because I have a goal of being more healthy. Like, I have a goal of losing weight. I have been lax in what I eat and how I work out, especially these past few years. And so walking this morning to me was the first step towards me becoming a more healthy person with a goal of losing a specific amount of weight. That was my thought process this morning. I was listening to a podcast, I was walking by myself and just thinking about all that I was accomplishing this morning with that walk, as this is the first step to greater and better things.
Yeah. I think it's just you kind of spurred a thought in me, but like there's this phrase called win the day. I think it was made popular by the Oregon Ducks like back in the 2010s about you can't win the championship in the end of February or March. Like you have to win today. You have to win today's practice in order to become the champion that you want to be like in a couple of months. And so I think that might be the first step, like winning today, only focusing on today, because that's what really matters as far as you reaching your goals is you winning today and doing everything you know that you're supposed to do today so that when you get to the end of the year in 2026, like you've seen your progress because you've won little small battles each and every day, whether you felt like it or not, but you won each day, and those compound on each other, just like the compound effect of putting money in the stock market. I think that could be beneficial.
So what would be the next step for you?
I think I think to think about what, I mean, obviously you want to think deeply about what you want to do, and then like you have a motive of why you want to get more physically healthy, and then from there, I think you need to categorize your goals. So like that's why the name of this podcast is, living life on purpose, with the different categories that we had come up with that we would talk about, and then outlining what you want for each of those categories. So for instance, like my health goals for 2026 is my goal is to get down to 10% body fat while still maintaining like
Wow.
180 pounds. And I had to
Hmm.
hire a coach for this because I don't know how to do that. Like I know how to go to the gym and lift a weight, but I don't know how to diet. I don't know how to time my macros. I don't know how to count my macros. And so over the last couple of months, I've hired a coach to do that. It's a $400 a month investment, but I would tell you that I've never felt better at 39. I feel better now than I did at 29. So I think that is something that you have to and put an investment into a goal if you're really serious about reaching that goal.
So I mean, we're talking about physical goals a lot, right?
Right. So let's
And
take it down.
that's what a lot of people focus on. Like, a lot of people, and there are other things we can have goals on, but that's a one thing that a lot of people think of. I mean, whenever you have New Year's Eve, like, people are making goals to lose weight. I mean, that's
Right.
when the gyms are the most packed, is the first week of January, the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
30 days of January. I mean, people who go to the gym on a regular basis hate it during the month of January because you have all these people that rush to the gym, pay for gym memberships, and then by February, they're all gone.
yeah.
So, why do we
Right.
start with physical goals? Are there other goals that I can work on? I know that you have steps and you have ideas on how to accomplish these goals. And we've talked about writing goals down. We've talked a little bit about the why of the reason that we're setting goals, but what are very clear and visual steps that I need to take, how I need to look at the goals that I'm setting, why I'm setting them, and how, I mean, ultimately, how can I accomplish them? Because I don't want to set goals and be one of those people who show up in the gym on January 1st, and then by February 1st, I'm not doing it anymore. So, for example, with walking, I know that walking and running is something that's really something that I've enjoyed a lot in the past. And it's
Mm.
been a precursor to seeing myself be more healthy, losing weight, living a healthier lifestyle. And so I don't want to walk on January 1st or even this morning, which is when I started that. And then by February 1st, like I'm not doing it anymore because I'm like, like this isn't a goal we're pursuing, or I fall off the bandwagon, or I don't see the priority of the goals that I set January 1st anymore. Like, what are specific steps that I can do? And I'm guessing that one of the first steps that I can do is set goals that are realistic and manageable. So,
Right.
like I said, I don't need to set a goal that I'm going to weigh 165 by the end of the year because holy cow, that's 45 pounds in a year. Like, I don't know that that's healthy to lose that much weight in a
Right.
year, right? So,
Right. Right.
what kind of steps can I follow from your perspective?
So I'm a teacher, so we talk about SMART goals with our students all the time because the kids can't forecast the future and they don't know how to get to achieve what they want, right? So we do these SMART goals for them. And the first one's specific. So like, is your goal clear and ambiguous? It is exactly what you want to accomplish. So like what would be a goal physically that you want to accomplish this next year?
So I would say I want to weigh 185 by the end of the year. I mean, to me, weight is a superficial goal. And it's not for aesthetics, it's for health. And for some reason, I feel in my mind, if I weigh 185, which I weigh 210 right now, that means that I need to lose 25 pounds. Then I will be in a state of healthiness that's good for my body. That's a
Right.
specific goal for me.
You have to be able to do the next thing, which is measure it. So you're measuring it by week. I have for my trainer, the guy who coaches me, I have pictures every Thursday. I
Mm,
take my pictures fasted right when I wake up, and it's every Thursday morning. And what's crazy is like I started doing this July 2nd or July 3rd on a Thursday, and I feel like I look the same, but I look back over those pictures and I see like incredible progress with my
that's
stomach, with,
interesting.
but it's very minute. Like you couldn't catch it unless you saw July's picture to last Thursday's picture. You couldn't catch it. But you see that progression, and so that really helps me track if I'm on the right path, and it also helps my coach say, "Hey, I mean, it looks like you're a little bit bloated this week. How's your diet? And, how are you feeling in your stomach?" And that helps with me kind of seeing my own progress.
So physically take pictures every
Mhm.
single week on the same day of the week. And that's interesting because I've done that in the past. And I don't know why I didn't think of it now, but that's a very easy way to measure my progress is to take pictures of my body. And even when I may not see a decrease on the scale, like I may still see improvement in my body structure. So that, I mean, that's great as far as a measurable step that I can take.
And then the next one off the SMART goal is achievable. And I think the reason why we might set goals sometimes is because we want to compare ourselves to someone else or to an ideal self. And like my goal is to be 10% body fat by the end of 2026. And I think it's achievable for me only because I'm already skinny. And I think it's achievable, but am I setting that goal because when I go to the beach in June, I want to impress other people with how I look with my shirt off? Or do I want to make that goal because I want Soren to be proud of me, knowing that I'm fit, do I set that goal because I want to feel good about myself, which I guess would flow into the next part of SMART goals, which is the R in SMART, which is it's relevant. Does it align with my view of myself? Does it align with my priorities and my values? And it's I think the comparison is the thief of all joy, and when we feel like we need to be our an ideal self to be happy, and we don't reach that goal, I think that could discourage us from setting goals like that in the future, whether they're
Right, and I
financial.
think that that's an interesting point to make because in today's current culture, you have kind of two sides to this argument where you have the body shaming side with people who say, well, people are beautiful in whatever body type that they are. If they weigh 500 pounds, well, they're beautiful in their 500-pound body. And I think from the opposite perspective is yes, they have the right to be comfortable in their skin. They have the right to be comfortable in their body, but also we need to look at our health goals. So being comfortable with how I look and the fact that I'm not in the shape that I was 10 years ago and accepting that fact does not preclude me from being able to bring my body into a more healthier position. So just because I can learn and be satisfied with how I look now and be happy and not look at myself as, oh my gosh, people look at me, they think that I'm fat. I'm not happy with who I am. I'm of course I don't want to be satisfied because I always want to be pushing for that goal, but also I want to look at this from yes, I'm content with who I am, but at the same time, I still want to better myself and be more healthy. And if as a result of being more healthy, I lose stomach fat, as a result of being more healthy, I start to show muscle striata. I don't know the right words to say, but if that just happens to happen, well, then that's great. But the goal is not to look good for other people. The goal is to look better for myself. And I think that's easier. Maybe this is just me, but it's easier for me the older that I've gotten because as I get older, I care a lot less about what other people think. So when I go to the beach and I take off my shirt, I don't give a rip what other people think. Oh, there's a guy with a dad bod. Like I don't care anymore. Oh, there's a guy that's bald and he has a beard. Obviously, he doesn't take care of himself. I mean, that's fine. Like go jump in the water because I don't care. But also from the same side, I do want to be healthy.
Mm.
So I've got the acceptance part down because I really don't care what other people think about my body. But from the same time, I don't want my acceptance to lead to laziness, or I don't want my acceptance, like, oh, I'm fine the way that I am, to continue this unhealthy path of eating whatever I want at times, of having 5 pieces of pizza on Friday night when honestly I could have 2 pieces of pizza and a salad. You know what I mean? Like these little decisions, I don't want my acceptance of my body to lead to procrastination on my part to where I don't get to be more healthy because of the fact that I accept my body and what I already look like, you know?
Yeah, and I think that your habits are become the byproduct of what how you feel. If you're more worried about creating the habit of trying to feel better, just trying to take care of yourself, then the natural benefit to those
Result,
good habits, yeah, the result are you feel better, look better, and are better. And I think that's the
right?
first thing that would be just to create a habit. And like if I eat the way I'm supposed to eat, then my body is going to change on its own. But I have those good habits on just being healthy and being focused on what works for me. I think the last one of the SMART goal would be is it does it have a time bound? So obviously these yearly goals they go from January 1st to December
Is that
31st.
realistic?
Well, I have a lot of goals that end on my birthday, actually, this year, June
Oh,
17th,
interesting.
because I'm going to be 40 years old. So my 10% body fat goal is by that day. And I have another goal that will be unmentioned until it happens on June 17th, which you know about, but I am not talking about.
So
But I think
funny.
that you do need to have a clear deadline, or else you'll never reach it. You never reach your destination.
So obviously there are different categories that we have here. So we have physical goals, we have financial goals, work goals, relational goals. Do you want to work through each of those and how obviously we've already talked a lot about physical goals, but are there specific steps that I need to take with each category in order to ensure that I reach the goals, and also setting goals? Like, what are good goals to set? Obviously, I can say financially, for example, that I want to save $5,000 a month. Is that realistic? No, but I can set it as a goal. So, like, all of that, what's a good way for me to set these goals in each of these categories? And maybe you can give examples of goals that you in particular are setting, and then I of course have goals that I've written down that I want to go over with you to get your feedback on.
I mean, we talked a lot about like the physical goals. I think like the more clear goals that you could maybe set is with numbers. So maybe let's just switch over to financial goals here. And like, yeah, we have goals that we talk about how much we want to put into our Roth IRAs, how much we want to put into our 401ks. What does that look like? And I read something this week that I think it costs maybe 498 a month to max out a Roth IRA a month, right? But the average car payment in the United States is $700 a month. So if I got this goal to max out my Roth IRA, then I don't need to have a $700 a month car payment. And I think that if I have a
Right.
goal to save, I don't need to have debt. I don't need to have car payment. And I think that might be the first step to reaching your financial goals is really clearing out your debt and making sure your money is working for you, not against you with your car payments and all your other monthly payments that you may have.
So the Roth IRA actually just went up, and if you save 625 a month, it just went up to $7,500 a year. I'm 99% sure I'm correct on that, but that's 625 a month, because actually Megan and I just had this conversation, and we of course bought a new house 3 years ago, and we were saving before this house purchase. I mean, 30 some months close to 40% of our income we were investing. And then we bought this new house, and our savings or investment rate plummeted because the house that we purchased is super nice and I'm very thankful for it, but it was more of a responsibility, like the higher monthly payment. I mean, it's a decision that we made, right? But now we're trying to get back to, okay, so we've stabilized, we've lived here for 3 years. Now, what are realistic goals for us, considering the amount that we've already put aside for retirement? What's a realistic goal monthly for us in order to continue the goal of retiring by age 60, for example? Like, and you can get a specific number, but starting with a Roth IRA at 625 a month, I think is a good place to start. But if somebody doesn't have any retirement savings, then I think $100 a month is a good place to start, right? So starting anywhere that you possibly can with that realistic goal, with that measurable goal, the ability to do it, and just determining this is something that I'm going to do. I'm going to have $100 a month taken out of my checking account and placed into a retirement account with Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard or whoever it may be, T. Rowe Price, right? So all of these companies just making very specific steps of what we want to do.
You can set that dollar amount, but I mean, if you want to have a goal to save more, then the way I see it is, are you saving your money? Are you spending your money first each month and then saving what's left over? Or do you live on everything you can after you put what you're comfortable with or what you know you need into retirement? Like I think that kind of determines what your goal would be as well. Because if you have the philosophy of I'm going to spend first and whatever I don't spend this month, that the rest of that goes into my investments, I don't think you're going to save as much. But if you have the philosophy and goal to, all right, when I get my paycheck, the first thing I do is I pay my rent, I pay my mortgage, and then I put my number that I want to invest each month. That goes in, and then I live on the rest. And that's been something that a shift that Katie and I have made 2 years ago. And I'm telling you, like it was really hard for about 6 months trying to live on less than we made considerably, but now it's one of the easiest things to do to live on less than we make because we've made those habits over the last 2 years.
So obviously you had to make cuts in order to make that happen. What were some cuts that you had to make? I mean, and I love the philosophy because that's the exact story. I'm not sure if you've read it, but the richest man in Babylon, which is
Of
a
course, you made me
parable.
read that book.
That's right. I forgot. I did. But that talks about the idea of saving and investing first, and then living on the rest. And then also, how do you look at that? I mean, I know I have my opinions on it, but how
Right.
do you look at the saving and investing first philosophy when it comes to debt? Because there are a lot of people out there who are in credit card debt, who have, high monthly car loan payments, who have student loan payments. Like, how do they look at those types of debt when they're looking at their finances, and also looking at this save slash invest first strategy of whatever it may be? And the richest man in Babylon, for example, he would take 10% of his monthly income before he paid anything else and just set it aside in an investment. And he eventually became the wealthiest man in Babylon because he did that, right? He started out very small, just did a little bit, as much as he could. He forced himself to live on the 90%. And of course, he had to cut things. But what are examples of things that you specifically had to cut? Because obviously, that's a complete mind shift. And then, how do you relate that to debt, car loans, credit card debt, student loans, a mortgage, like all of that?
A brief history. In my 20s and 30s, when I got a good job, it was immediately buy that Lexus, buy that BMW, buy that sports car. And
Right?
the car payments were upwards to, like, for two Lexuses that we had, were over $1,000 a month. As the older you get, you kind of realize how foolish that is. So we made a shift where we own both of our cars. We don't have any car payment. We have zero debt. We've been debt free for, I would say, 5 years maybe. We've been debt free. And so that just gives us the confidence to throw extra money into investments. And I think that's the first step. I think you can't have a car payment in in today's world and get ahead financially. And you look at
It's
a
tough.
lot of a lot of Americans are screaming, we don't have enough to live on. We don't have enough to live on. But you look at their credit card debt, they may have 8, 10, $15,000 credit card debt. They have two cars. The car payments are $1,400 a month for both those cars. They have a substantial mortgage, and let's say they're taking home $10,000 a month. Well, by the time the first of the month comes around, they have to pay all their debt. They got $3,000 to live on. And, I think that that just is not a recipe
It's not
for
sustainable.
success. So we cut all of our car payments. We have no car payments, no debt. We went in and we tracked every single dollar, where every single cent was going. Realized that we were spending $500 in subscriptions that we had no idea about. And
Wow.
some of these, it was about $500 a month, and I felt so foolish. And when we figured that out, we cleared $500 a month, and then we just started saving for future purchases. And that's a game changer when you can go on a vacation and it's paid for before your flight leaves. It's such a peace of mind knowing that you don't have to go into debt for it. And I think that that just sets you up for all of your financial goals. And whether that's saving 30% of your income, we have a goal this year to invest $50,000. Like, I know that may sound crazy, but we only need to make a couple of sacrifices to get to that number, because we're close to it, but it may mean one less trip, one less vacation. And we live in Europe, so these trips are really, really close and a lot cheaper, but we can reach that goal, I
Right.
think. I think it's something that is, if you go back to our SMART goals, like, that's attainable for us. It's relevant.
There are a lot of things that I definitely agree with on things that you said, and differ a little bit. Take debt, for example. There are a lot of people who've lived with debt for so long that it would require such a mind shift on how they live life that it's almost an impossibility. So, for example, if you have somebody who has made $1,400 a month car payments for years, like you said, and they're measuring their success in the type of car that they drive, whether that be two Lexuses or, maybe it's a Honda and a Lexus. Like, well, we have our one nice car that we spend $800 a month on, and then I have my Honda payment, which is $425 a month, right? Well, I'm making sacrifices by only paying $425 a month for my Honda. But I think people have lived in that mindset for so long that to tell them to Dave Ramsey it, like to just go sell all your cars and take zero vacations and like absolutely do nothing and sit at your house and eat rice and beans all the time, like a lot of people are just completely turned off by that. But at the same time, if we have a disease and there's something very specific that we can do to help remedy that disease, then I think we need to try to follow those steps as much as possible. So with debt, I've always said, to me, if you look at your interest rate and if your interest rate is over 5%, then to me, you need to pay off any debt that has an interest rate over 5%, hands down. Like, get it out of your life. So that's most car payments. That's pretty much all personal loans. That's going to be all credit card debt. And credit card debt, even if you have a 0% interest rate right now, the reality is it's going to go up above 5% eventually. So anything that's over 5%, we need to get out of our life so that that way we can make the steps to be successful financially later.
I think what you're going off of is like when people have had that debt in their life for so long, they are they would rather have that short-term dopamine hit of having a nice car than long-term financial freedom. And see, this is why you're better with this kind of stuff than I am because you know these numbers. I'm in the personality where I'm very impulsive, and so I was looking at Corvettes like back in August. I want a Corvette. I want a Corvette. I can maybe buy one with cash if I save up for it because I'm very impulsive. Because now I've had that experience with car payments, and I probably wouldn't have a car payment with a Corvette, but I would rather now sacrifice my short-term desires to set me up for long-term success, which my end goal with all my financial goals is generational wealth. And that's obviously for my son.
So, looking at debt, man, I have so many thoughts on how this conversation could go, especially
Dude,
about debt. I'm gonna have a lot
just
to
let it,
edit.
dude, just let it rip, man. And if I'm not going where you want to go either, just let me know. Because
Mm.
you're way more better at the finances stuff than I am.
No, I mean, I think the point that I want to make regarding this is that number one should be getting debt out of the way. And if it's over 5%, like we need to do everything that we can. So we need to take this investing for retirement. And that's something that I agree with Dave Ramsey on is if you have card debt, if you have credit card debt, if you have student loan debt that's over 5%, well, at that point, like we need to do everything we can. Like we don't need to be setting money aside for retirement, potentially making 8% a year or whatever you suspect that the stock market will return in years to come. We need to focus first on this albatross that's around our neck, get that out of the way with, make that our goal to get out of debt, and then we can focus on that 10%. But that being said, there are sometimes when people are in situations like when they have a lot of student loan debt, maybe they have $100,000 in student loan debt, and the reality is if they focus on paying that off first, and let's say that it's at a 4% interest rate. So if they have that student loan debt at a 4% interest rate, then they will spend the next 10 years or the next 15 years paying that off, and they never really focus, and at the same time they never really set any money aside for retirement, so therefore they're not really reaching any goals. So while I would say yes, pay off the debt that you have that's costing you a lot of money that has a very high interest rate, yes, 100%, but also at the same time, if your debts are overwhelming, of course sit down with a financial counselor if that's something that's needed, talk with a financial professional, but also you have to look at the interest rates on things, on what's important to you, and decide, okay, I need to get rid of this car loan debt. I need to get rid of this lifestyle that I've set up that's over extravagant that I can't afford so that I can save for retirement. But also, if I have debt that it's just unrealistic that I'm going to pay it off in a short period of time, well then when that happens, I do need to look at, well, I'm going to start $500 a month and setting that aside for a Roth IRA, for example. And I think Dave Ramsey models this in his mortgage recommendations. So he'll say you need to pay off all debt except for your mortgage because he understands that a mortgage is going to take a really long time to pay off. And it's better for a person to slowly pay off that debt, their mortgage debt, while at the same time, his recommendation is paying 15%, putting 15% aside for retirement. So being able to look at your goals and okay, I understand that having a $700 a month car payment is not realistic. Like that's not smart financially. So I'm going to focus on this debt. I'm going to work really hard to pay all this off. Or maybe I'm like out of debt. I don't have any car payments. I'm decided I'm not going to go into debt. I'm going to pay cash for cars from here on out, but I still have this really high student loan debt. Well, at that point, you have to look at your budget and your life and decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pursue $500 a month in a Roth IRA, even though I have student loan debt. Not because I accept that student loan debt and I'm okay with just not paying it off, but because I want to make sure that I'm setting these steps of reaching my goals, which are doing a little bit every month to save and put money aside for retirement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think you're, again, going back to like making habits today so that you're free financially tomorrow or free financially in the future.
So, looking at the next goal, like how would you talk about work goals? Like how do you set work goals? What kind of work goals do I need to set? And like I wrote down specific examples because like I've been an interpreter for 22 years, 23 years. So, as far as accomplishing things, I pretty much accomplished everything that I'm going to accomplish. Like, I get the work that I want to get, I do the things that I want to do with work. There aren't necessarily accreditations or certifications that I can receive because I already have them all, right? I already have a level of expertise where I'm not the best in my business, but I'm one of the best in my business, right? I'm already at the top of the field. So my work goals would be more related to this podcast, for example. Like I would want to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by July 31st. I would want to have 100 followers on X. I would want to have 10,000 followers on TikTok. I would want to have 1,000 followers on Instagram by July 31st. Like those are the types of work goals that I would think of because work goals related to interpreting, like I don't feel like I can set any. What and you're kind of in that same boat where you're a teacher, like you have all the accreditation and certifications that you need. So what type of goals are you going to pursue related to work? Is it outside of your job, or are there specific goals that people need to think at about if they are in their job that they can pursue?
Yeah, and I've kind of made a shift in the last 2 years as I went from coaching, and that was my work. And all my goals were related to getting to the highest level of coaching, which from where I was at, that's what I had attained. But I think sometimes if you're not satisfied, I think the biggest scam and the biggest lie is following your passion and having your passion be your job. And I think that that is something that I don't think is attainable in most situations. And so if your end goal is to your job to be your passion, because I know like your interpreting pays the bills, but it's not like what you wake up thinking about and go to bed dreaming about and how to become better. And so I think that for work, I think you want to be reliable, to master what you're doing. You've mastered interpreting. I would like to have thought that I mastered coaching. I'm in the process of trying to master how to become a better school teacher because it's something that I'm back to doing. And I think that your goal for work should be centered on, are you the best in your profession, in your area? Am I the best? I teach PE. Am I the best PE teacher in my complex or in my region? And I think that that's something that you can attain to. But I think that you have other passions outside of your job that might constitute for you to set goals for. So, like currently, my goal is I've been writing a lot. I've been writing and trying to produce thoughts to help other teachers see the positive side of teaching and how you can reach positivity in your classroom so that you can reach your students. So, like, I have a goal of writing just 3 articles or 3 little papers or 3 little stories a month. And that in turn gives me a lot of fulfillment because I get to think of things intellectually, I get to communicate those things, and hopefully I help one person as they read that. So, like, I wouldn't say like my work goals are related to my actual job, other than just being really good at what I do. But I think it is outside of my job. I have goals that I want to reach that are more personal, and making sure that those goals help somebody else.
So just to be clear, like I'm very passionate about interpreting. Like I'm good at interpreting. I've been doing it for a long time. I've reached the highest levels. I'm doing everything that I could possibly do. And I think I'm taking this from their perspective that if someone approaches me that I want to help and they're like, look, I've already, achieved certification in interpreting. Like I'm already doing all the jobs that I want to do. I'm very passionate about what I want to do, but what kind of goals can I set? And I think you hit the nail on the head, and that the goal is to be human, and to be human is to help humanity blossom, to help humanity grow. So while I may have achieved everything that I can achieve in interpreting, can I help somebody else achieve their goals? And then that in turn becomes the goal that I set for myself. And maybe it's not in interpreting. So maybe I don't have the passion to help other interpreters become the best that they can be, but maybe I have a passion in other work related topics. So starting this podcast, for example, is something that I want to help me and I want help myself reach my own goals, but also like this is a work or a business related goal where hopefully it can help other people. Like it can help humanity in general, which is the reason why I'm doing it. It's the reason why I'm doing the podcast. I think one thing that a lot of people have said over the years is that in order to find what you're passionate about, figure out what you would be willing to do for free, and then figure out a way to monetize that. So, and this is a perfect example. Like, I would love to do this on a regular basis, whether I'm paid or not. I mean, we talked about that in the last episode. Like I love talking to you. So even if me, you, and RJ are the only people that listen to this podcast, like I would still want to do it because it gives me something to a passion to pursue. Like it gives me something where I can improve my life. And then in turn, as we get better at it, like these first few podcast episodes, maybe the first 50 podcast episodes might be a little rough, but as we get better at talking, as we get better at connecting themes, at connecting categories, well then we're going to see growth, and then at that point we get to the point to where we can help other people, and then in turn we can monetize that passion, and then in turn we can never work a day in our life because we're doing what we love. But the reason that we're doing it now is because we love doing it, not because we want to make a lot of money doing it. So I think for the person maybe who has reached mastery in whatever job or passion that they're pursuing now, if they're at that point, look at how they can then proceed to influence other people to also reach their goals and to be more passionate about whatever it is that they want to pursue that's in the same field that I'm pursuing, which is something that you're doing. So you're a PE teacher and you write some excellent articles, which I will definitely post on social media eventually. Like we're gonna get all that out once we get everything figured, and we're gonna have the website set up and all of that. Like I'm gonna post your articles because they're very good. Like they're very thought filled, and I think they are written. Well, I don't think I know that they are written because you genuinely have a passion for helping other people. Like take yourself with coaching, like you were paid crap to coach at a very high level. Like even when you coached for the University of Guam, I don't even think you were paid to coach for the University of Guam,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was small, but I think like I get what you're saying about monetizing something that you love to do, but there is just not that's not feasible for everybody. I
Right.
think that the modern world and social media has painted this picture that you have to, in order to enjoy your life, you have to get paid with something that you love doing. And I read a book, don't know the author's name, but the book is called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And basically, it's talking about that. It's a lie that you have to do your passion and get paid for it to be happy in life. I also think on the flip side, it's okay that I'm a teacher and I work from eight in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon, and that's my main source of income. And I get to enjoy everything else on top of that because I have such a good job. And so my goals as far as it goes to work is I I want to keep this job and do good at this job because that fuels other things like being able to spend time with my family. Because if you have a job where you're working 12, 14 hours a day and you can't see your family and you can't fulfill your values that you have for outside of work, then like is that job really healthy for you? And so I'm under the impression that do what you're good at, but also let that income fuel the other things that you do, even though you may not get paid for it. And I know, like you said, like for this podcast, like it's eventually something that you want to monetize, of course, but can we be content with the state of our life if that never happens? And I know, like we've discussed this already. Yeah, of course. Like we're doing this for you and me because we do it anyway, week in and week out. But what about that person who's on social media trying to gain a following and influence people, and they get their worth from having 100,000 followers on TikTok? Are they truly happy? And I don't know, but I would say right now, I never thought I'd say this. I thought that coaching was what was going to bring happiness, which was my paid job. But I've never been happier working as a PE teacher and then doing these things on the side to for fun. And I think that that to me has been the biggest shift in how I see work and getting paid over the last 2 years. And it's something that I'm just really thankful for that I'm in this position mentally and I'm in this position financially. So I don't know how you want to take that, but like, I think it's okay to not have to monetize everything as long as you're happy with what you're doing for your vocation.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like I agree with that 100%. Like monetization isn't the goal, but you always hear these phrases of do what you love so that you can never work a day in your life, right? And somebody may not love being a PE teacher, but I think it also comes back to the financial aspect and setting financial goals. Like if I'm a PE teacher and I'm making, in the States, a PE teacher will make $50,000 a year. If you love doing that, or not even if you love doing that, but if you're okay with doing that, like you don't mind and you enjoy, you know, playing dodgeball with the students or whatever, right? I think at the same time, we have to look at those passions that we have outside of our job, like you've said, and how can I get to the point to where I can pursue these passions like every day and not have to go to work or not have to be a PE teacher because I have enough built up financially to where I can pursue my passions without a monetary goal in place. So, for example, that would mean going back to cars and credit card debt and student loan debt. It's following the steps that a person needs to take so that they can save up enough financially, either A, to retire early in the FIRE movement, so being financially independent, retiring early so that way they can pursue their passion and they can start that cigar shop or they can start that board gaming circle or sphere or whatever it is, maybe bring in a little income if they want to, but they're doing it because they love it, not because they need the money. So using our job to make smart financial decisions so that eventually we can do what we love. So take us, for example. We've decided that we're going to talk or do this podcast at least once every 2 weeks. Would it be nice for us to be able to do this on a weekly basis eventually? And maybe we want to make the sacrifices to where we can do that. Would it be nice for us to be able to do this on a daily basis eventually? And I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what topics we would discuss if we did this on a daily basis, but getting to talk to you, like my best friend, on a daily basis, like I don't think that would be nightmarish. Like I think that that would be amazing, right? Getting to talk to you every single day. Like maybe you would get tired of me, and I'm sure that we would get tired of each other, but like there are podcast hosts that literally do it on a daily basis, and it seems like they love it. Like they pursue it with passion. But I think the point of working my daily job, which I love, like I love being an interpreter. I'm very good at it. I get to work amazing jobs Like I get to work at a very high level. I get to meet celebrities. Like I get to meet really cool people. I get to see really interesting stuff. Like I'll interpret for surgeries where I get to see the doctor going in and do a heart cath where he inserts, something into their hip and it comes up into their heart and spreads this ink into their heart. And I'm watching this on a monitor. And like I'm there for when the patient wakes up because they're deaf. And we get to tell them the results of whatever it is afterwards. Like I'm passionate about it because, for instance, in the past few years, especially, like I have gotten to go through life journeys with people who have had heart disease or cancer. I have, and like this is hard, but like I have been the interpreter that's there when the doctor will look at the deaf patient and say, "Look, the chemo isn't working. So at this point, you have to decide: do I want to continue the chemo treatments to get an extra 30 days of life, or
Yeah.
because you have pancreatic cancer, this is not going to you're not going to heal, and you have 6 months to a year to live. What do you want that final 6 months to look like?" And I am the person who is responsible for transferring that message from the doctor to the deaf person. And I'm very passionate about that because I'm good at it, right? I can connect with the deaf people, I can connect with the doctor. I'm good at what I do. But also outside of that, like I would love to limit the type of jobs and not have to take certain jobs because I need the money for it, and to only pursue all of my passions. But for somebody like you, for example, who's a PE teacher, understanding that the financial decisions and the financial goals that you make outside of your regular everyday job will help you eventually be able to pursue the passions on a full-time basis. And maybe someone's passion is taking a world cruise where they're not working at all for 6 straight months. Like whatever our passions may be, setting the goals to where they can eventually reach that, whether that be in their job or whether that be outside their job.
So, what would you say is your life calling then? Would you say that your life calling is to be an interpreter? Like you're placed on this earth to be an interpreter? Like, I don't think I'm placed on this earth to be, I thought I was placed on this earth to be a coach, and I don't think I'm placed
Right?
on this earth to be a PE teacher, but I see how I can help kids. So, what would you say? And I don't know, my priorities have shifted in the last couple of years, but what would you say is your life calling? Because I think a lot of times our passions, we say that our passions are our life callings. Like, you're passionate about podcasting, about, we talked about maybe opening up a cigar shop in our 60s, like that would be something
Right.
that we would want to do. It'd be something that would be fun, but because a lot of times what we do as for work is not what we're passionate. Like, I know we're on this topic, but what would you say is your life calling?
It's a tough question, right? So I love interpreting. I mean, I love it. Like I'm very good at it, like I said. And yeah, I mean, I see myself interpreting whether I need to or not. So I think a better perspective of that question is if you won the lottery, and we're not talking the $250 million lottery, because at that point, obviously, you're ridiculously wealthy and you're not going to have to make these decisions. You can sit on your butt all day in your house if you want with $250 million. But let's say you won the lottery and it's one of the smaller lotteries, and let's say you win $2 million. And on $2 million, at that point, you can live off of that, like you can live off that investment income, but you can't buy $1 million house and live in that $1 million house and still have enough money to live off of on a daily basis. Like it's just not quite enough. So at that point, I would still need to have some type of income. I don't have to have a lot of income because I have this money that I won in the lottery that I can live off of, but it's not enough for me to live an extravagant lifestyle. So what would I pursue? In that instance, I can see myself still interpreting. A, because I'm good at it. B, because I'm passionate about it. But also at the same time, like I can see myself podcasting. Because I love these conversations because it challenges me as an individual to look at things a little bit differently. So I have these set ideas on how I need to live my life, and then I talk with you, and this is one reason why I love the idea of podcasting is because we don't get this deep. Like you said at the very beginning of the episode, where when I'm sitting on the back porch, like we will talk about deep topics, but not from the perspective of, oh, other people are listening, so therefore we need to get into it a little bit deeper than we normally do. I can see myself doing this as
Yeah.
well on a regular basis. And if not for the monetary value, like maybe we will never monetize this podcast. Maybe we won't make a dime off of any of this that we're doing right now, but I will be a better person and I want to be a better person and set the goals to be a better person, which is the reason why I'm podcasting, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I'm talking with you right now. Not to make a lot of money, but because I'm passionate about it. Now, if I could podcast in that instance, and let's say that I could make a couple $1,000s a month, and that's just enough in order to meet the financial needs that I would have. Or let's say that I am able to make smart financial decisions and I'm able to retire at, I don't know, 55. Like we have enough money in investments. Well, at 55, I'm free to choose whatever it is that I want to do because I live off my financial investments. Well, at that point, I'm probably still going to interpret. I'm going to be more picky about what assignments I'm going to take. The assignments that I don't really enjoy that I do now because, I want to make as much income as possible right now to save for my future. I'm not going to do those. I'm going to focus on medical interpreting because I absolutely love that. I'm going to focus on mental health interpreting because I love mental health interpreting. I'm going to do some fun assignments like I'm still going to interpret for court because it's just cool to be able to see the American judicial system and to approach, the judge and like all of that. I'm still going to interpret for the governor if I get the opportunity. If the president comes into town and I'm asked to interpret for the president, whoever he is, I don't care, Democrat, Republican, like, yes, I'm going to take that opportunity to interpret for the president, A, because I'm good at what I do, but also, like, that's just awesome, right? You get the opportunity to do something that's really cool. So I'm very passionate about it from the perspective that I do think that even if I had enough money and didn't have to interpret, I think I still would. But also, like podcasting, making YouTube videos, running a social media account that hopefully can help other people, even if it's just one or two people, like I think I would still do that as well. Like, what do you think about all that? I
Oh,
just puked up a lot of
yeah.
thoughts.
No, the thing that came to my mind was I see you as a creator. Like, I'm not talking about this modern day phenomenon with being an influencer. I heard maybe a couple weeks ago that Gen Z or the young people these days, like in their late teens, early 20s, they hate the word leadership. There's negative connotation with the word leadership. Probably rightfully so with how the world's
Hmm,
going, but they feel that the more positive thing is influencer. But you've always been an influencer or a trendsetter or a creator from back when you did coffee news. And I know when we talk about
right?
business
Yeah.
ideas, like in the future, future episodes, but you've always been this creator. You're always trying to create something. And like when we talk about these scenes, like I'm like, dude, just go with it because like you're a creator. I'm not necessarily a creator. I'm more of a follower. But you've always tried to create, whether it's content with your previous experiences, but you're always seeking to outdo yourself with creation. And I think the reason why it works for you right now is because of the opportunity for you to share that with other people. Whereas, 20 years ago, you couldn't really share too much with the world unless you wrote a book or you had something in a magazine. But I always see you as a creator, and you've always taken the impossible and tried to make something positive or good out of it, specifically financially. Like you've always tried to think outside the box to do something financially, which I'm sure that goes in this category of work goals, but that's how I've always seen you over the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, and I pursued this even because I had a gaming YouTube channel and I made a little money off of that. Like we've talked about that before. Like on my YouTube channel where I do gaming, like I would make, I mean, $100 a month. Like it's nothing super special. And I have videos that would do pretty well. Like I would have maybe 5,000 views a video, 10, 15,000 views a video. but I did it not because of the monetary value. I did it because I enjoyed it, because I was passionate about it. So when I'm setting work goals, it's not necessarily work goals to achieve a certain certification or to become, of course I always want to become better. I always want to learn, right? I always want to become a better interpreter, but like I've kind of capped out when it comes to that side. And maybe somebody has capped out. Maybe they're a welder and they've received all the certifications that they can receive as a welder, and they've been welding for 25 years, so they're very good at what they do. How would they set work goals, for example, in welding? Like, set would they look for passions that are outside of welding, or like how would you see that person who's a welder as setting goals for them to be able to accomplish? Would that be, and would you encourage people to then mentor welders who are not as experienced to help them up? Should that be somebody's work goal?
Well, let's throw you a curveball and let's make the shift to relational goals then, or family goals. Because if you've reached the pinnacle
Yeah.
of everything that you can reach with your job, then you need to invest yourself in other people. And I think that that could be maybe possibly be the shift towards family goals because, you know, I think the reason why I stopped coaching was because I never saw my family. And so I had reached my work goals of coaching professionally, coaching in Germany here at the highest level, but then I could not meet any of my relational goals. So if I was to talk to a welder who had everything, they've already accomplished everything, and they want to maybe start keep doing something else with their work, I think that maybe making that shift to now pouring into their family, I think that that might be a realistic goal for some people because if you only have a certain amount of time with your kids and you got to make that the most. And I think that that might be a shift towards family goals. So I don't know if you want to explore that one, we can.
Yeah, no, no, and I agree with that. So a person may not have the type of work goals, like they may not have the necessity to set a lot of work goals because they have accomplished almost everything that they want to accomplish in whatever work they're performing. Well, at that point, we need to look at other goals and prioritize other things in our life. So if I have a work goal, that I've accomplished, a certain level of certification, or if I reach that certain level of certification, that's the highest level that I can get in whatever profession or field that I'm in. Well, at that point, I've reached it, I've accomplished it. Well, then I can now turn my focus to other things in life, like my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, my relationship with my finances. Like at that point, I need to double down on my finances and I need to read as much literature as I possibly can to be as financially literate as possible so that I can be successful with my finances, which in turn can possibly allow me to spend more time with my family so that I can reach my relational goals. Like I think it's all interconnected from that sense. So from the relational goal perspective, what kind of goals are you setting? And I wanted to ask you about this because does this mean to you, setting a goal of going on a date night once a month with my wife, or having a family game night once a month, or going out to eat, like, or going on vacation once a year? Like, what do relational goals look like to you, especially in your relationships with Katie and Soren?
I have like three phrases that I have written in my journal that I'm trying to be like my life motto, I guess you could say. The first one is live positively, live positive, love sacrificially, and then the third one is write intentionally. So going back to the live positive, that's I want everybody, I want Katie and Soren and people I work with to get my best version of myself. So when I walk into the room and somebody sees me walk into the room, I have this idea of how do they feel when I walk into the room. And that kind of goes with the relationship goals as a whole. But I want them to know that I'm trustworthy, I'm loyal. This is more for work, but that I'm positive. And then the second part to that is the love sacrificially. So with Katie and Soren, my goals with them is to be a loyal, loving husband to Katie and a present and patient father to Soren. And I think that if I can do those two things with Katie and Soren, then that is the umbrella for everything else that our family will stand on. If I'm not patient and present with Soren, then I'm probably on my phone. I'm getting angry at him for spilling the mac and cheese on the table, and I think that those are very important for me to reach my relationship goals. And the third one is just write intentionally. And those are the three things like I'm focused on going into 2026. But I want when I get home after I work all day, I want for Katie and Soren to get the best version of me after work. And that's something that is hard because you're tired. You've invested in other people. As a school teacher, you got the energy of all the other kids. Maybe you had behavior problems with another kid. I don't want that to leak into our conversation and our energy and good vibes at home. I think that's the first thing that I would say towards like the goals with my family. Like some other goals that we've talked about, we do a lot of hiking and we want to do more camping. So I guess like we want to do a hike in the Dolomites, which is in Italy. We want to hike around Mount Blanc. I mean, those are some tangible goals, but like I'm really interested in the goals for the family that aren't they're the day-to-day um like how you talk to your wife, how do you talk to your son? Like those are the things I'm really interested in because those are the things that are going to leave an impact. Yeah, these like trips and going on date nights and spending time with your family is good, but I think it's in those day-to-day exchanges, every night having dinner together. I think that's where you're going to build, or we're going to build, a stronger family.
So how do you set measurable goals in relation to that? Like how do you see yourself? Like it's great to think, "Oh, I want to be a better husband, and so I'm going to try to do so on a daily basis," or "I want to be a better father to my son, so I'm not going to get mad at him when he spills the mac and cheese." But what type of measurable things can we put in place in order for us to succeed at that specific goal?
For me, I think it's digital minimalism. I think I wrote a couple of days ago, I think the number one detrimental thing to families and to goals in general is the iPhone for adults and video games or technology type stuff for children. And so one of the things that we try to measure, I guess you could call it measurable, is digital minimalism, where even Katie said sometime this week, we should go a month without technology. And I was like, there's no way, that's impossible. Like, how am
Mm.
I going to get to the grocery store? There's like three ways to get
But
to
it's
the
a
grocery
goal.
store. But is that realistic? I told her, I was like, is that realistic? I don't think that's realistic. And so
A
she's like,
week?
okay, well, maybe a week, but she was okay. Well, let's do social media. We go a whole month without Facebook, Instagram, scrolling. And so that's something that we've talked about. And even in the past, like I've gone on social media fast where I don't go on social media for 40 days. And I've read a lot of literature on that as well. But for us, that's immeasurable. Like, am I on my phone? I try, no phones at the table, of course, but I've tried to set my phone down and when I get home and then not be on my phone until we go to bed or after Soren goes to sleep. So that's something that works for us because I don't want Soren to look back on his early childhood and be like, you guys were more interested on being on your phone than you were with trying to invest time with me. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind is I think that the phone is one of the most dangerous things to relationships. And so that's something that we're focused on, I think, more acutely than maybe some other people are, but we also see the effect of technology, video gaming, and our students and how their attention span. I'll give you an illustration. Last night, Friday nights we watch a movie, or we watch some TV on Friday nights, and Saturday mornings we watch. We came home last night. Soren hasn't watched any TV the whole entire week. We get home, he's like, "Hey, can I watch TV?" Yes, you can watch TV. So he watched it for an hour. Then it's dinner time. So we transition to the dinner table, we turn off the TV, and Soren sits there just blank stare. And we start asking him some questions, and he just gives us grunts, and I don't know. And we got upset at him, and we told him like there is a stark contrast from the behavior that you've had all week, and the moment you get on the
Oh
TV,
yeah.
you become brain dead. And I know I may be a little bit too particular on that, but that's just something that we've seen, even myself, like when I'm watching TV, I become less conversational. I become more irritable. So just limiting those things for our family is what we're focused on and what has worked for us.
So, I mean, a measurable goal might be one night a week, we are not going to do any technology. Like, we're not going to watch TV. We're not going to be on our phones. We're not going to do any gaming. We are going to get a board game out and we are gonna, or something else, we're gonna get a puzzle out and we're gonna do the puzzle together. And even though, and this is gonna be hard for a lot of people because we do board games like a decent amount. Like I have, as you know, like I'm a board game nerd, so I have like 120 games in my closet. So for a family like us who have been board gaming, it may be a little easier for us to say, well, one night a week, Friday night or whatever, no technology at all after 6 or after 5 or whatever, and we're just going to play a board game that night. But for somebody who's just starting, that may be quite difficult. Maybe they don't have any board games in their house, or they don't have any puzzles, or they don't have any hobbies that they built up or they participate in as a family. So, how would you recommend? Like, would you recommend that they look at hobbies? Like board gaming is a great hobby, and I have some of the best memories that we have growing up of playing board games together. Like that's a great memory. Is that something, or does anything else come to mind for you that families can do together that's not technology focused? Like hiking, biking, playing frisbee, throwing a ball around the yard. Like what type of stuff comes to your mind?
Yeah, for sure, hiking. Like we hike all over Switzerland. It's our favorite place to hike and just being out in nature. Those are things that we do, especially in the summertime. Cooking together is something that we do. Cleaning up the kitchen, that's something that we do together. I don't think it has to be where you have to be off your phone. I'm not saying that we're not on our phones every single night, not on our phones, but I think it's just the awareness of the detriment that technology can have to your family and doing things that put your opportunity for conversation, because I think conversation is one of those things that can really build the family and build the relationship. Because if you don't talk, you don't really know them. And so I think that that is something that I know I'm harping on technology, but I think that getting back to conversation is something that's very important. And then when you're hiking, you have 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to just not talk and think, or to ask questions to each other. And um, yeah, I think that for us, that's what works.
So specific goals. Like I want to go over specifics. So we've broken this down up into 4 categories, and maybe I'm missing one. So if I am, then correct me. But physical goals, financial goals, work goals or business goals, and relational goals. Were there any other categories that you had as far as what you're going to be pursuing and goals that you're going to be setting in 2026 or maybe on a daily basis or whatever it might be?
No, I think that, and they, like you said, they all intertwine into each other. Your relationships, your finances will impact your relationships. I mean, if you don't have any health goals and you feel like crap, then you're not going to be able to get out on a hike. And I think that they're all four intertwinable.
Right?
And I don't think you need to
That's a good
have
point.
like 10 different categories. I think focusing on a few, mastering those few categories and becoming the best version of yourself in those categories is important. And not trying to overcomplicate that process.
So one of the things that I know is really good for helping somebody reach their goal is A, write it down, so put it in black and white, and B, is telling somebody else and being accountable to somebody else for the goals that you write down. So some goals, for example, physical goals that I have written down, and we're not at January yet, but I can start this now. Like I can start this process now of achieving these goals. Is A, I want to find and run a 5K in the spring. B, I want to find and run a 10K in the summer. And then by next Thanksgiving, I want to find a half marathon that I can run. And I know that as we get older and as we age, building muscle is super important. But for me, I've always enjoyed running. Like it's always been something that's made me feel amazing and I've always been a runner. Like I've always been really good at it. But as I've gotten older and my knees have started hurting and I've gained weight and it's extremely uncomfortable to run. So like I said this morning, like I walked. I ran a little bit, but I haven't ran in a while. Like I'll run for CrossFit workouts, but that's one of the negatives, I guess, with CrossFit is you're doing a lot of weightlifting, but you're not doing a lot of running, and you're doing a lot of cardio. And that I'm doing, 10 cleans in a row, and then I'm doing 10 push-ups in a row, and then I'm doing 10 sit-ups in a row. But running is something that clears my mind, and it just feels good to run. But I don't feel good running now because of the weight that I've gained, and partially because of age, but being able to do that again is super important. So find a 5K, find a 10K, and then eventually, I mean, Thanksgiving's 11 months from now, finding a half marathon that I can run, to me, those are realistic and measurable goals. And then a weight goal for me is being 185, between 185 and 190, which for me is 20 pounds, over 20 pounds, I think is a measurable and realistic goal. And in order to get there, I'm going to have the activity side, and then also I'm going to have the food and diet and intake side. What are your specific physical goals that you are wanting to reach in 2026 in this effort of sharing and being accountable to each other?
I want to, on my compound lifts, between the bench, the deadlift, and the squat, to lift 1,000 pounds. So that would look like 275 on my bench. That would be, I don't have very strong legs, so that'd be 300 on my squat and about 450 on my deadlift. So that's I want to be in that 1,000 pound category with all my major lifts. And then that process, I want, like I said earlier, my goal is 10% body fat by my 40th birthday. So those are things I'm trying to reach with my physical goals. And for you, like it's funny how you want to be, you said 185 to 190. I would like to be 185. And right now I'm 160. I measured myself yesterday at 169. So when I started this journey with my coach that I'm with, I was 174 and I got down to 160. I lost 14 pounds because I had to fix my gut, had to fix some stomach issues, and I lost a ton of weight because of my diet. But now I'm in the process of trying to gain that weight back. So within the last month, I've already gained like 4 pounds. So I'm trying to get to 185, but I don't know if that's realistic at 10% body fat, because that means I'd probably have to get up to like 195 and then make my cut down to 10% body fat, which I don't know if I can do that in the next 6 months. So I think a more realistic goal for me would be closer to 175, 180, because I have to go over my weight in order to cut it back down to 10% body fat. That makes sense. So those are a
Yeah,
couple of,
and you would have to build like 5 pounds or 10. You would have to add like 10 pounds of muscle to the frame that you have now, correct?
right, that's correct. Yeah. Which is attainable. And the guy I'm working with, he's the world's strongest man, 40 and over. So if you Google Aaron Chappelle, he's there. He's top-notch athlete. He's world class. He says I can get 10 pounds of body, or 10 pounds of muscle by June. So that's the goal right now, to get to that point
So
physically.
you're going to have to lift a specific amount as well. So how much are you going to lift in order to accomplish that goal? How often are you going to work out? And then do those workouts look like 30-minute workouts or hour workouts, or what are you specifically doing?
Lifting 4 times a week, and I walk 30 minutes 3 times a week with a weighted vest. So I'm just doing a brisk walk as fast as I can for 30 minutes with a weighted vest. Right now it's at 14 and a half kilo. I think that may be close to 35 pounds, maybe 32 pounds. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'm doing. And our progression on our lifts is not, I'm not maxing out every single time. It's very structured and the progress is really slow. But I mean, he's teaching me the science behind building muscle. Because I previously I thought that building muscle was just go out and lift as heavy as you can every single time. But for instance, if I'm going to max out in a deadlift, I may do, one set at 350 right now, one set of one rep at 350, and then my next three sets are at like 275 for 5 reps or something like that. Something that's a little bit easier. But that's how he's building my strength and building my muscle mass.
So the next goal that I have, financial goals, which I guess are kind of related to work goals. So I have the goal of maxing out my Roth IRA for this year. And then work goals would be the goals that we talked about earlier for the podcast. So like 1,000 subs on YouTube with this channel, 10,000 subs on TikTok, 1,000 followers on Instagram, 100 followers on X by July 31st, and then reevaluate at that point. Do you have any financial or work goals that are specific and measurable?
Yeah, I financially, like I said earlier, we want to invest 50,000, not just save. So that's like a goal that we have that we only want to do it for 1 year because I don't know if that's sustainable with Soren going into high school and obviously into college, but for 1 year we want to discipline ourselves and invest 50,000. And then I need to increase my
That's
emergency fund.
$4,000 a month.
Yeah, right now we're a little bit under 3,000 a month that we are putting into 401ks and retirement with our work, and then obviously our own accounts with like Fidelity. And then I need to increase my emergency fund because during the shutdown, we didn't get paid for 2 months. And I had enough to cover those 2 months of expenses, but that kind of made me see what happens if I lose my job. Do I have 6 months of emergency fund to get me to my next job? And right now, I probably have about 2.5 months. So I need to beef up my emergency fund. So I'd like to put in, say, I don't know if this is going to be, I have to scrunch the numbers, but investing 50,000 plus putting another 20,000 into an emergency fund, that's going to be near impossible. So uh,
That's a lot.
it is a lot. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if that's going to be realistic. So we'll have to reevaluate that. It sounds good on paper, but so yeah, I have to reevaluate that. For work, I don't have any goals other than I've just started my master's because if I get my master's, I get a pay increase. And so I've started my master's, getting an MBA in executive leadership. So I have just started that back in August. So I want to continue in those courses, but then like with my writing, I'll just say it now. I want to write a book I have my rough draft for my book June 17th of my 40th birthday. So that requires me to write every single day, and I want to have 1,000 creative hours of writing from January 1st to December 31st of next year, which works out to about 2 hours a day. So that again is going to be a tough goal,
Wow.
but it just takes a little bit. I think Tim Ferriss said, write 2 crappy pages a day. And so that's what I'm focused on. And in the process of that, publishing 3 articles that relate to the book that I'm trying to write every month from now till June 17th. So I guess you could say that's kind of my work goals.
What about relational goals? So for me, measurable is taking the time to play a board game every week. Like I think that that's a measurable goal that we can do that's good for the family that will bring us together is just setting aside a time on this night every single week we will play a board game and put it in the calendar. Like the calendar is everything to us. Like
Mhm.
it's not going to happen unless it's in the calendar. And as far as relationship with my wife, like making sure I don't know, we oftentimes let life get to us and we never go on dates, and we know that dating is important even if you've been married for 10, 15, 20 years, right? So setting at least one night a month aside to go on a date, and again putting it on the calendar saying we will go on a date on this night. Those are two of my measurable goals that I would like to accomplish. And I think a third goal, which is something that we try to do already anyway, but it's to go on a vacation as a family somewhere where we can spend time together and gain an experience doing something together as a family with the goal, of course, of having fun and enjoying life, but also building that relationship. Do you see those as realistic? Do you think that I can improve on those at all? And what are you doing specifically to improve your relationship with your family?
I mean, these are some of these are ongoing goals that we have, but we eat dinner every single night at the dinner table. That's like a non-negotiable for us, thanks to Katie. That's something that we do. We have like hiking goals. Like I said, we want to hike the Dolomites, which is in northern Italy. It's like a 3 day hiking trip. And then
That's cool.
we want to camp one day a week during our summer break. So camping was something that we did back in October. We went to Interlaken, Switzerland, and we hiked a couple of valleys and peaks in Switzerland, and we camped. We did tent camping for 2 nights, I think it was, and we fell in love with it. Like it was
Wow.
so much fun. But Soren likes it, and so we want to do that one time or once a week for the summer. We have 2 months off during the summer.
I'm curious about your camping. Like, what did you specifically do whenever you made your campsite? Like, did you just sit around the fire and talk, or like, do you have a guitar that you take with you and you sing campfire songs, or like, what do you do? What did you do specifically?
Nothing, no phones. We didn't do this intentionally, but we didn't take a charger, and we our phones died, and so the only way we'd have a phone was with our car charger, and we didn't use our cars because we used the trains and the buses to go around everywhere. So we literally went 2.5 days with no phones, and I think that was what was so impactful about it. Because yeah, you sit around the campfire, you're in the majestic the majestic Swiss Alps, and the enormity of the mountains and being in nature and the difficulty of hiking. We hiked 7,000 feet in about, I think it took us about 8 hours to hike 7,000 feet to the peak. And just that, doing that as a family and doing something really hard and strenuous just made an impact on us. So we want to continue doing that. So I think that was probably the reason why we liked the tent hiking or the tent camping so much with the hiking, was for those reasons.
Something that's really hard for us is we have pets, like we have dogs, and so we could always pay somebody, to come over, or we could board them if we're going to spend a couple nights hiking and camping, but that's definitely a barrier for us. Is there anything that comes to mind, or have you talked to other people who have pets and what they do with the pets whenever they decide to go camping? Obviously, you can take them with you, but we have 3 dogs. That's gonna be a lot to go camping
Right.
on. You know what I mean? So that's like I love the idea of camping and using that to build our relationship, and it's something that I'm actually excited to try. I don't know how realistic it is for us, you know?
Well, we board our cat. Like our cat goes. In fact, you're not even gonna see our cat when you come because we're gonna be in Paris for a few days. The cat's gonna be boarded, and it's about an hour away. So we don't want to take a time away from y'all when you're here. So we'll just pick her up when you guys leave. So like we board our cat. It's like for us, it's super cheap. It's like $20 a day. So that's what we do. But man, I don't know if you have dogs and that's another like commitment that your family makes that you get enjoyment from that other people who don't have dogs have. So I mean, you're gonna have some trade-off
Right.
by having those pets because those pets are actually part of your family. Like they're your children in a sense. So I don't know what I'd say if you had pets and you want to travel or go camping. I don't know what I would say.
Well, and I did have the thought too. So I know that Megan isn't that thrilled about camping. I know that's not something that she super enjoys, but I do think that that's something that Eli would like. So maybe an idea is we hook up with another dad and his son, and say, hey, do you want to go camping on this night? And Megan can stay at home with the dogs because it's not something that she super enjoys anyway. I know she would feel bad about being left out per se, but that may be an experience that I can give Eli as a dad and build my relationship with him, and then we can do other things as a family that's maybe not necessarily camping related. Like we still go hiking, like we can leave the dogs for the day and drive to different areas and hike. Like I think that that's an excellent idea, but camping in particular is something that I would like to do, but I'm not sure that we'll be able to do.
You could always do the backyard. Like that's at the very least. I think that it's in every boy to, well, so one of the other relational goals I wrote down was to take Soren fishing because there's no way we go fishing here in Europe. It's harder to do. Like in the States, you can go to a river, you go to a lake, and I think you have to have a license to do it, but it's very easy to do. Whereas here, because we're so city oriented and it's very small, Soren wants to go fishing. So that's one of the things that we want to do is take him fishing. But I think every single boy has it within themselves to want to be part of nature in that way. Whether it's hunting
Hmm.
or I never went hunting. I always wanted to, but I think it's part of that draw to manhood that draws. That's why Soren wants to camp because it's like a manly, dirty thing to do. Because you don't shower,
Right?
stuff like that. I think it just it draws him in. So I think that's one of the reasons why he likes it because it's rough and it's you're getting dirty around the campfire. You smell like smoke. So yeah, this we want to take him fishing. That's another thing that we want to do.
So this has been great. Do you have any final thoughts on goals? And I'm going to have to split this podcast up into two, like we talked about. But is there any like final thoughts? And then I'm going to tell the dad joke of the week, which I know you're going to love. And then I also want to ask the last question, which is what are you reading, writing, blah blah blah,
Sure.
this week that's affected you the most? But is there anything you want to wrap up the
Yeah.
goals portion of this conversation?
I think that with your goals, I think you go through stages in life. Like you've tried to climb different mountains with the different ideas that you had, and it's okay to evolve yourself and it's okay to evolve your goals. And if you don't reach your goals, I don't think that's the end of the world, but it's okay to try to climb a new mountain and it's okay to try to reach new goals and evolve along the process of setting and reaching your goals. Because there's so many things, life changes us, life changes, our priorities change, and when that happens, I think our goals change. And I'm starting to see that now going into my 40s, my goals are starting to change. And that's a good thing because I'm evolving. I think I'm becoming more in tune with how my goals actually impact other people and impact my family. So it's okay to evolve. It's okay to get off one mountain and try to climb another mountain. I just think that's the way life goes.
So always pursuing betterness, like always trying to be a better person, improve my relationship with other people, helping other people be better, like all of that, right?
Yeah, definitely. So what's your dad joke, man? I got one too.
All right. So, all right, dad joke. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. So, dad joke of the week.
You're ready to
So,
crack me
there
up.
was a nun. You're already because it's a hilarious joke. There was a nun that was taking a bath. She heard a knock on the door. She called out, "Who is it?" The man behind the door said, "It's the blind man." So she says, "Oh, come on in." The blind man opens the door, looks at the nun who's taking a bath, and says, "Oh, nice. Where do you want the blinds installed?"
Dude, that's the worst one I've ever heard. But yesterday it was. Oh man, that's good. I'll give you that one. But no, on a realistic level, this is realistic. It's been rainy here the last couple of days, and so yesterday was super foggy, and so I was trying to catch fog, but I missed.
So dumb.
No, but for real,
Nice try.
I have a goal to be more organized, but I lost my list. You're better at
Did you
telling.
chat GPT those?
I did, yes.
No, no, you're good.
Wait, you made up that dad joke?
They're
You
really
made
good.
that? You made that one up
No,
about the
no, I
bath?
heard it
Okay,
somewhere. No, I
gotcha.
heard it
Okay.
somewhere.
That
So, what are you uh, watching, reading, listening to, or playing this week that has affected you the most?
I started a new book called Win the Day by Mark Batterson. Talks about 7 different habits that you can have to win the day. And I'm just getting started, and I think I'm only on page like 50. But one of the things that he talks about in that book is we need to win the day so that we can impact our children and generations from now because we mastered ourselves today. And you think about like I can't remember I can't find the right word, but you think about grandparents and great grandparents and how they lived and how that has impacted us as people now, like our Tipton family. and how maybe different choices could have been made by them in the past could actually make our life better today. If I can win today, kind of goes with goal setting, kind of like if I can, reach the goals that I set for myself today, I will inadvertently impact Soren's life, but then also impact the next couple of generations. And it was just a profound thought, kind of going with
Mm-hmm.
along with what the goals we were talking about. So yeah, just trying to reach the goals that I set and win, become the best person I can today.
So I had the opportunity to watch a movie that was amazing, and I would recommend it to anybody, not necessarily for kids, but it's a movie about World War One, and you may have heard of it, and it's called 1917. Have you heard of the movie?
I don't think I have.
So it follows two young men who are in World War One as they're fighting against the Germans. Ironic since you live in Germany, but they're fighting against the Germans, and they have to take a message to another portion of the British Army. And so it follows them on this path of open terrain, fighting against Germans, the fear that they experience. And I don't want to give too much of it, but it was the most realistic picture that I have seen of war, other than maybe like Saving Private Ryan, which was an amazing movie, right?
Mhm.
And 1917 is a more recent movie. It was really good, very impactful, would strongly recommend it. Number two, started watching the Silo series. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Silo book series by
No,
Hugh Howey. Have you
I
heard of
watched
it?
no, but I watched the first season of Silo.
Mm.
It's good.
But I love dystopian futuristic novels,
Hmm.
and I read the series, love the series. I think it's Wool, Dust, and I can't remember the name of the books. But anyway, it's been a year or two since I read them, but excellent books. And Apple Plus has taken that and made it into a TV series. And man, it's great revisiting that story.
Hmm.
So I just love it. So I wanted a different perspective other than just books. Like there are other things. And then the last thing that I listened to this week that was super impactful was Joe Rogan's interview with Jelly Roll. You've heard of Jelly Roll before?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't listen to it, but I think he talked about his weight loss journey, right?
He talked about his weight loss journey, and of course the entire episode is good, but if you don't have the 2.5 or 3 hours to listen to the entire episode, listen
Mhm.
to the last 30 minutes, because in the last 30 minutes you see a side of humanity that's just powerful. Jelly Roll is extremely open about his life experience, and there's some things that they talk about in the last 30 minutes that was very impactful. So if you have the opportunity to listen to that, just the last 30 minutes of that interview, I would definitely highly recommend it. I mean, and I don't listen to everything that Joe Rogan puts out. Sometimes I'll start listening to the episode and be like, I'm not interested in this. Like right now, I'm listening to an episode on aliens and UFOs, and like people might be like, I'm not interested in that. But the interview with Jelly Roll, right? The last 30 minutes was very impactful, and I would strongly recommend it. And
Mhm.
at this point, when this portion of the podcast comes out, it might be 2 months ago that specific episode was released. That was
Right.
really good, and I would highly recommend it. Anything else before we finish up?
No, man. No, just thanks for being vulnerable from the start. Like, I think you set the tone with kind of just being vulnerable. And, sometimes when I'm in these conversations, I think I'm taking more in. I feel like I should take more in with what you're saying than what I can give. And it was a little overwhelming, to be honest with you, trying to think about these topics and add value. But like you added a lot of value to how I see things and kind of thinking through things about my goals. I thought you led the conversation in a way that helped me. And I know if you helped me, then I know you're going to help somebody who listens to this. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we're gonna get better at podcasting. We're gonna get better at conversation. We're gonna get better at discussing different topics. But you got to start somewhere. Like you got to start with the first episode of a podcast. You got to start with the second episode and the third episode and fourth episode, right? You got to start that YouTube channel with one video.
Hmm.
And I think that's where we are right now. Like we're not at the Joe Rogan level yet, but these conversations are definitely helping me, and I think we have plenty of room to grow. So I'm excited to see what could happen.
But the conversations are real. This is not like I'm not reading from a script. Like these are the conversations. I'd say it's a little bit deeper than what we normally have, but these are the conversations that we've experienced for the last few years. So not that part's not overwhelming, but it's just kind of, it's a lot to think about, and you caused me to think about a lot today.
Good. You definitely done the same with me, and I appreciate it for sure. So you can find us on social media, TikTok, Two Bros Lit at Two Bros Lit, Instagram. You guys set up the Facebook page still,
I will
Two
do
Bros
that this
Lit.
week. Yeah.
We will have 0 followers for a long time. That's okay. YouTube channel at Two Bros Lit, Instagram, TikTok, X. So until the next episode, this episode will be broken down into 2 episodes. So we won't record for a little while, but I will see you in just a few days. Super excited about that, the time we can spend together. And then we'll talk about our trip, what the difference is between Europe and America. It's going to be super interesting to me.
Yeah.
Until the next episode.